My phone vibrated at 7:12 in the morning. That uneasy slice of time when bad news feels more real because your head isn't fully online yet. The screen lit up with one word, Dad. I stared at it longer than I normally would, because my father never calls that early unless he wants something or he's about to drop news like a judge reading a sentence. I finally answered. Hello. His voice came through stiff and empty, like he was reciting something he'd practiced in front of a mirror. Grandpa died last night. Funeral's Friday. He left everything to us. You get nothing. For a second, my lungs forgot what they were supposed to do. Not because I believed him, but because I could hear what was happening behind his voice. My mother laughed in the background. It wasn't quiet or sad. It was light and sharp, the kind of laugh someone makes when they finally get to tell a joke they've been holding on to for months. Then she spoke just loud enough to make sure I caught it. Finally, you're out. Could have yelled. I could have demanded answers. I could have begged for details the way they probably expected. Instead, my eyes dropped to the kitchen table. My grandfather was sitting right there beside me. Alive. Calm. Holding his coffee mug like the world couldn't push him an inch unless he decided to move. His hands looked older than I remembered. Skin thinner, veins standing out more, but they didn't shake. His eyes were alert and steady, not surprised at all. That kind of calm doesn't come from not knowing. Comes from being certain. On the table in front of him sat a sealed envelope. Heavy paper. Attorney letterhead tucked into the corner. My name written across the front in careful, deliberate handwriting. The seal wasn't decorative, it was the kind that snaps when you break it. It felt like evidence, not sentiment. I didn't answer my father. I didn't react to my mother's laugh. I just pressed a button and put the call on speaker. Then I slid the phone across the table until it rested between me and Grandpa, like a microphone waiting for someone to testify. My father kept talking. Silence always makes him think he's winning. You thought you were clever, he said, cutting in like he was correcting a child. Running off, acting independent. Doesn't matter now. The house, the accounts, the land, it's all ours. I watched Grandpa closely. There was no anger, no shock. Just the slightest tightening near his jaw, the way a judge marks down a lie without reacting to it. My mother leaned closer to the phone, her voice turning syrupy the way it does when she wants cruelty to sound reasonable. You should come to the funeral, she said. Or don't. Either way, you're not family anymore. Grandpa's eyes drifted to the envelope. He didn't open it. He didn't need to. He tapped the seal once with his fingertip. One soft tap, like he was reminding himself there was a page they hadn't read yet. My father's tone sharpened. Are you even listening? I kept my voice level. I'm listening. He sighed like he was disappointed I wasn't breaking down. Good. Then you'll do the smart thing and stay away from the attorney's office. We already handled everything. Handled. That word landed hard in my gut. Because when my father says handled, he means forms, signatures, and catching someone when they're emotional enough not to read the fine print. That's when I noticed something else. Small but important. Grandpa's left hand wasn't on the mug anymore. It rested on a thin folder beside the envelope. Plain manila. Nothing flashy. The kind people use when the paperwork matters more than how it looks. He hadn't shown up unprepared. My father kept going, his voice growing more confident as all he heard was my steady breathing. We're heading to the cabin tomorrow, he said. We'll take inventory. Anything you left behind, we'll ship it to you. My mother laughed again. If there's anything worth sending. I stared at the phone. The call timer kept ticking upward. Proof this wasn't a dream. 7:13, 7:14. It was real. It was recorded. Then Grandpa moved. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. He leaned slightly toward the phone, slow and deliberate, like a man who knows a door is about to close and has decided whether to stop it. He looked at me for 1 second. A wordless question. Are you ready? I nodded once. He lifted the sealed envelope to eye level, angling it toward me like a reminder that it existed for a reason. Then he set it back down and placed 2 fingers on the manila folder. He didn't open either one. He just listened. My father was still talking, now using the voice he saves for people he thinks have no choices left. Don't make this difficult, he said. You'll only embarrass yourself. It's done. Grandpa's face didn't change, but his thumb nudged the envelope closer to the phone. lining it up like it was about to be introduced into evidence. Then he leaned in and spoke toward the speaker. Not loud, not angry, just one word, clear and clean enough to cut straight through their performance. Hello. On the other end, the laughter stopped so fast it felt like someone yanked the audio cable. My father went silent. My mother didn't even breathe. For 2 full seconds there was nothing but dead air, and the faint crackle of a phone struggling to carry the moment. Then my father's voice came back thin and shaken. Dad. Grandpa didn't answer right away. He glanced at the envelope, then at me, then back at the phone, like he was deciding whether this was just a warning or the start of something official. Because whatever my parents thought they had handled, Grandpa had handled something too. And he brought proof to my kitchen table. The line stayed silent for a few more seconds after Grandpa spoke, quiet enough that I could hear the low electrical hum of the kitchen light overhead. Then my father tried again. Dad. My mother still didn't speak. I could hear her breathing short, sharp inhales, like she was choosing between panicking and putting on a show. Grandpa didn't give them that choice. He stayed close to the phone and spoke the same calm way he always did when he taught me how to do something right the first time. I heard everything. My father rushed to grab control. Dad, this is a misunderstanding, he said fast. We got a call. They told us. No, Grandpa interrupted gently. You didn't say you got a call. He paused just long enough to let it land. You said you got everything. The line went quiet again. Then my mother slid in, her voice soft and sweet, like honey poured over broken glass. Dad, thank God, she said, already halfway into a performance. We were terrified. We thought. Grandpa didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. You laughed, he said. One short sentence. One plain fact. It hit harder than any accusation ever could. My mother's sugary tone fractured immediately. That wasn't, she started. I'm sitting here, Grandpa continued calmly, at your granddaughter's kitchen table, with a sealed envelope from my attorney in front of us. My father's voice shifted. The performance dropped. What came through instead was sharp and urgent. Why are you with her? He demanded. She's been turning you against us. Grandpa glanced at me for a second, then looked back toward the phone, the way someone does when they're done pretending this is a family conversation. I'm with her, he said. Because I knew you'd try something the moment you thought you could. My stomach nodded. Grandpa wasn't speculating. He was confirming what he already knew. My father tried another tactic. Anger this time. Louder, rougher, like volume alone could erase proof. Are you even thinking straight? He snapped. Do you even know what day it is? Grandpa didn't blink. It's Tuesday, he said evenly. And at 7:12 this morning, you called my granddaughter and told her I was dead. He paused just long enough to let it sink in. Then you told her to stay away from my attorney's office. My pulse jumped. That wasn't an idle threat. That was planning. My mother came back in sharper now. We only said that because she causes trouble. She shows up and makes scenes. Grandpa's voice stayed flat. She shows up with documents, he said. That's what you're afraid of. Then he changed tactics entirely. He didn't argue feelings or morals. He asked a simple procedural question. Why did your bank receive a death notification request at 6:48 this morning? My breath caught. I turned and looked at Grandpa because I hadn't known that. My father made a sound, half cough, half choke. What? He said. What are you talking about? Grandpa slid the manila folder toward me and opened it for the first time. Inside was a single printed page, stamped with a bank logo and a bold alert header. He tapped the paper once and angled it toward the phone, like my father could somehow see it through the speaker. This, Grandpa said, is an automated fraud alert. It hit my email at 6:52 a.m. 4 minutes after someone tried to initiate a deceased customer process under my name. My mother's voice thinned. That wasn't us. Grandpa didn't argue. He just read the part that mattered. The submitting contact, he said, pausing as he looked down, is listed as my son's email address. The kitchen felt smaller all at once. Because my father hadn't just been running his mouth on a phone call. He'd touched a system. And systems don't care about family. They care about records. My father raised his voice again, desperate now. That's fake, he snapped. She's showing you fake paperwork. Grandpa didn't even blink. It came from the bank, he said. Not from her. Then he leaned closer to the phone, his voice dropping. Still calm but colder. Here's what's going to happen. At 9 o'clock, I have an appointment at my attorney's office. She'll be there. And this call will be played. My mother's breath hitched. My father tried to cut in. Dad, you can't. You're done talking, Grandpa said. There was a short, sharp pause, like my father couldn't process being silenced. Then my mother tried one last pivot. Her voice trembled in that careful, calculated way. Dad, please. You're not well, she whispered. You shouldn't be traveling. Let us handle it. Grandpa looked at me, then at the envelope, then back at the phone. I'm well enough to sign, he said. And well enough to revoke anything I ever gave you. Revoke. That word slammed down hard. Because my parents hadn't just been waiting for money, they'd been relying on access. Accounts. Permissions. Authority that only worked as long as Grandpa's name still opened doors for them. My father's tone turned ugly. If you do this, he hissed, you'll regret it. Grandpa didn't react emotionally. He responded with a calm that made the threat sound childish. I already regret what I tolerated. Then he looked at me. Turn the call recording on, he said quietly. I tapped the screen. A small red timer appeared. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted their voices, their laughter, their confidence that I was already cut out. He wanted it preserved because people like my parents rewrite history the moment the future stops cooperating. My father realized it too. His voice softened instantly. Careful now. Dad, he said, listen. We can talk in person. Don't do this in front of strangers. Grandpa didn't move. You already did, he said. You did it at the bank. Then he said the sentence that made my stomach drop again. And someone was at my cabin this morning. I froze. What? Grandpa kept his eyes on the phone. Lockbox tamper alert, he said. 10 minutes ago. My father inhaled sharply, barely audible, but there. Grandpa heard it. He leaned closer to the speaker. Tell your cousin, he said, precise and quiet, to step away from the door. The line went dead silent for 1 second. Then, faintly in the background on my father's end, I heard another voice, panicked and rushed. Hey, someone's here. Grandpa's expression didn't change. Mine did. As now this wasn't just lies over a phone line. This was movement. Real time. Grandpa ended the call with a single tap. Clean. Final. Then he slid the sealed envelope toward me and spoke like every word was evidence. We're going to the attorney, he said. And then we're going to the cabin. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my keys. And just as we stood up, my phone buzzed again with an alert I'd never seen before. Cabin camera. Front porch motion detected. I opened it. The live feed struggled for a second, then loaded. There was a man on Grandpa's porch with a tool bag slung over his shoulder, reaching toward the lockbox. Behind him stood my father's cousin, half turned away, watching the road like he was hoping we'd show up too late. The image sharpened enough for me to be sure of what I was seeing. A stranger kneeling at the lockbox doing a job. And behind him, partly out of frame, was the cousin who always knew a guy, who always had someone who could make paperwork disappear. Grandpa stared at the screen without blinking. He didn't gasp. He didn't swear. He just nodded once. Like a man watching a trap finally close on exactly who it was built for. Record it, Grandpa said. I hit screen record. The red dot popped up, proof. Then Grandpa did something that sent my pulse climbing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a second phone. Old school. No apps, no drama. Just a number already saved. He dialed. A man answered on the second ring. Sheriff's office. This is Frank Miller, Grandpa said, calm and steady. I have a live camera feed showing an attempted unlawful entry at my cabin. I'm alive. And my son is falsely reporting my death. There was a brief pause. Then the deputy's tone shifted completely. In small counties, real names still mean something. Mr. Miller, the deputy said. Where are you right now? On my way to my attorney, Grandpa replied. But I need a unit at my cabin immediately. He gave the address from memory without checking anything. Then he added one more line. Casual on the surface but razor-sharp underneath. And I want the responding unit to note this. There was a bank death notification attempt made this morning using my son's email. The deputy didn't question it. Understood, he said. We're dispatching now. Grandpa ended the call and looked at me. Keys, he said. Folder. Envelope. I grabbed everything. We got into his truck. Grandpa drove despite my protests, pulling out of the driveway with the sealed envelope sitting between us like a loaded weapon. On the highway, I kept the cabin camera feed open. The man with the tool bag shifted his weight, tried the lockbox again, then stood up and spoke to my cousin. I couldn't hear audio, but I didn't need to. His gestures said it all. It's locked. I need the code. My cousin pointed at the cabin door like he was tired of waiting. Then came the worst part. The locksmith walked straight up to the cabin door. Like the lockbox had only been the first step. Grandpa's jaw tightened for the first time. He didn't look scared. He looked insulted. Not for himself, for the house. For the nerve of it. People like that, he said quietly, don't stop when paperwork fails. 20 minutes later, we pulled into the attorney's parking lot. The building was calm and polished, glass doors, neutral carpet, framed certificates. The kind of place where families pretend they're civilized because the walls are beige. Inside, the attorney greeted Grandpa with professional warmth, then glanced at me like she already knew who I was from old conversations. Mr. Miller, she said, I'm glad you came in person. Grandpa gestured toward me. She stays with me. Then he set the sealed envelope on the desk. Before we do anything, he said, I want my son's call recorded and preserved. The attorney's eyes sharpened. You have the call? I held up my phone. Recorded. Speaker. Their voices. Everything. She nodded once. Good. Grandpa leaned forward, calm as stone. Now tell me what my son tried to file. The attorney exhaled and turned her computer screen so Grandpa could see it. There was an inquiry this morning, she said. From your son. He asked whether a death certificate had been issued, and whether he could proceed with immediate estate administration. My stomach dropped. He asked for a death certificate. Grandpa didn't react. Yes, he said like it was exactly what he expected. The attorney clicked again. There was also an attempted change request, she added, to update beneficiary contact information on 2 accounts. Grandpa's eyes narrowed slightly. Which accounts? She hesitated just a beat. The investment account. And the cabin property file. Grandpa leaned back. And suddenly it all clicked for me. This wasn't about cutting me out emotionally. It was about locking me out fast before I could interfere, while they moved money and control. Grandpa opened the manila folder and slid the bank alert across the desk. The attorney's eyes dropped. Her expression changed instantly. That's a fraud alert, she said quietly. Exactly, Grandpa replied. Then he tapped the sealed envelope once. Now we open this. The attorney nodded, watching him carefully, like she understood the next few minutes would decide whether this stayed a family dispute or turned into a criminal case. Grandpa broke the seal slowly. No shaking hands. No hesitation. He removed a letter and a second document, thicker, stamped. He read a single line silently, then pushed it toward the attorney. I want this filed today. She read it and froze. Then she looked up at Grandpa, her voice lower. This appoints an executor, she said. Not your son. Grandpa nodded. And it denies him access, she added, almost stunned by how direct it was. Yes, Grandpa said. Because I know him. My throat tightened. The attorney swallowed and slid the document into a tray marked urgent. We can file this, she said, back to professional mode. But once we do, your son will be notified. Grandpa didn't blink. Let him. Then he leaned forward again. And I want one more thing. A statement on record that I'm alive. He's already telling people I'm dead. She nodded sharply. We can do that. She printed a form. Grandpa signed it cleanly and deliberately. Then she turned the screen toward me. Your father attempted to access your grandfather's estate portal, she said. He used an old password reset question. My stomach dropped. How would he even know that? Grandpa answered before I could. Your mother filled out my forms, he said quietly. For years. The room felt colder. The attorney looked up at him. Mr. Miller, do you have any reason to believe they possess physical documents bearing your signature? Grandpa's eyes moved to me. Yes, he said. And they tried to steal them this morning. My phone buzzed again. Another cabin alert. I opened the feed. 2 sheriff's vehicles sat in the driveway now, lights flashing blue against patches of snow like knives. The locksmith and my cousin froze. One deputy stepped out, hand near his belt, and shouted something we couldn't hear. The locksmith raised his hands. My cousin didn't. He backed toward the trees. Grandpa leaned closer to my phone, his eyes hard. Don't run, he murmured. On the screen, my cousin bolted out of frame. A deputy chased after him. The locksmith stayed put. And because my family never does just one thing at a time, my phone buzzed again. Not an alert. A call. Dad. I stared at the screen. Grandpa stared too. He didn't tell me to answer. Grandpa didn't hesitate. He slid the phone closer to himself and said softly, "Let's see what story he tells now." My father's name glowed on the screen like a challenge. I didn't move. Grandpa did. He pulled the phone toward him, put it on speaker, and answered in the same calm tone he uses when he wants someone to reveal themselves without realizing it. Yes. For half a second my father didn't speak. Like his brain couldn't process hearing a dead man answer the phone. Then he recovered fast. Dad, he said smoothly. Too smoothly. Thank God. I'm coming to see you. We need to talk. Privately. Right now. Grandpa didn't bite. About what? My father sighed, playing the reasonable one. About her. My stomach tightened. She's manipulating you, he continued. She's isolating you. People are worried. People. That word has never meant concern in my family. It means pressure. It means leverage. Grandpa glanced at the attorney. She gave a small nod and quietly pressed a button on her desk phone. Recording started on her end too. Backup proof. Grandpa spoke again, steady and deliberate. At 7:12 this morning, you told my granddaughter that I was dead. My father's voice went light, rehearsed. Fake surprise. Dad, I didn't say that. You did, Grandpa replied calmly. And your wife laughed. Silence. Then my father snapped. Fine, he said sharply. You want the truth? We did it because we had to protect what's ours before she steals it. The attorney's eyes lifted. Mine went cold. Grandpa didn't change his tone. What is ours? The estate, my father shot back. The accounts. The cabin. The land. Dad, you don't understand how this works. If she gets involved, everything turns into a mess. Grandpa leaned slightly toward the phone, making sure every word landed clean on the recording. She is involved, he said. She's sitting next to me. I heard my father inhale. Just a tiny hitch. Then he pivoted hard. Dad, listen, he said, suddenly softer, almost pleading. Let's not do this through lawyers. I'll come to you. We'll settle it as a family. Grandpa didn't blink. You already chose lawyers, he said. You chose the bank at 648. You chose the registry. You chose the lockbox. That last word changed everything. What lockbox? My father asked, his voice tightening. Grandpa waited one beat. Long enough for the lie to form. Then he said, the one your cousin tried to open 10 minutes ago. Silence again. Then, faintly in the background on my father's end, I heard a woman's voice close to the phone. Don't say anything. My mother. Grandpa heard it. The attorney heard it. I heard it. The corners of Grandpa's mouth tightened, but his voice stayed controlled. I can hear her. My father snapped loud and sharp. She's not there. She is, Grandpa said. And you're on speaker. And you're being recorded. That word recorded changed the air completely. My father's tone shifted instantly, like a mask snapping into place. Dad, he said carefully, this doesn't have to turn ugly. We can handle this quietly. Grandpa gave him nothing. Tell me why you told my granddaughter to stay away from my attorney. My father hesitated, just long enough to matter. Then he filled the silence with authority. Because she's unstable, he said. She's had episodes. She twists things. Everyone knows that. The attorney's pen stopped moving. Grandpa's eyes went colder. Everyone doesn't know. he said. You want it on paper so she sounds unreliable. My father raised his voice, defensive now. She's taking advantage of you. She's got you sitting in her kitchen feeding you lies. I brought the envelope, Grandpa said flatly. Not her. Silence again. Then my father said the sentence that told me this was bigger than the cabin. Dad, the court is already involved. My stomach dropped. The attorney lifted her head slowly. What? Grandpa didn't react outwardly. He just asked calm and lethal. What court? My father tried to retreat immediately. I mean probate, he said fast. It's standard. The attorney was already typing. Fast. She didn't ask permission. Grandpa watched her for a second, then looked back at the phone. You filed something, he said. No, my father snapped, panic breaking through for the first time. I didn't file. I inquired. Grandpa didn't argue. He let the attorney do it. She stared at her screen, clicked twice, then froze. When she spoke, her voice was lower than before. Mr. Miller, she said, there is a filing. My skin went cold. My father heard her through the speaker and jumped in immediately. Don't listen to her, he barked. That attorney works for her. She ignored him and kept reading. Emergency petition, she said. Temporary guardianship. The air left my lungs. Guardianship, Grandpa repeated. The attorney glanced at me, then back at him. It claims you're mentally incapacitated, she said, and that you're being exploited. My father's voice came through loud and sharp, furious and satisfied at the same time. It's for your own good, he snapped. If you won't listen, the court will make you listen. Grandpa stared at the phone like it had become something foreign. Then he spoke quietly with a calm so sharp it scared me. You tried to declare me dead at a bank, he said. And when that failed, he paused. You tried to declare me incompetent in court. My father didn't deny it. He leaned into it. You're not thinking clearly, he hissed. You're acting out of spite. The court will protect you from her. The attorney scrolled again, her face tightening. They requested an expedited hearing, she said. Today. My heartbeat turned into a drum. Grandpa turned his head slightly and looked at me. Not fear. Not sadness. Apology. Because he hadn't just predicted they'd try to take his property. He'd predicted they'd try to take him. Then the attorney added the line that hit even harder. They listed your cabin address as your current residence, she said. That would give them control through a property-based court order. Grandpa's voice stayed steady, but it dropped colder. They planned this. My phone buzzed again. Another cabin alert. The attorney glanced at my screen. What now? She asked quietly. I opened the feed. The sheriff's units were still there. The locksmith was sitting on the porch steps. My father's cousin, who'd been caught near the tree line, was now being escorted back toward the driveway in handcuffs. But the deputy walking him wasn't watching the cousin anymore. His attention was fixed on something he just pulled from his hand. A folded sheet of paper. On camera, the deputy opened it, scanned a single line, and I saw his posture stiffen. Without saying a word, he lifted his radio and spoke into it, though whatever he said didn't come through the feed. The attorney leaned closer to my phone, squinting. What is that? She whispered. I zoomed in until the image started breaking apart into pixels. Even then, I could still read the heading at the top of the page in the deputy's hand. Temporary guardianship order draft. A draft order. Already written. Already printed. Already sitting at the cabin. Like they'd expected to serve it the moment the door opened. My mouth went dry just realizing that. Grandpa stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he leaned toward the phone resting on the table, toward my father who was still on speaker, and said quietly, almost too quietly, You brought the court to my front door. My father answered low and satisfied. Not yet. His voice slid out of the speaker like a blade dragged gently across skin. Soft, precise, deliberate. Grandpa didn't yell. He didn't explode. He just stared at the phone like he was finally looking at my father without a single illusion left. Then he ended the call. One tap. Dead silence. The attorney's office suddenly felt too sterile for what had just been said inside it. All right, the attorney said, her tone snapping into pure business. We move now. Fast. She opened a fresh document and started typing like she'd been preparing for this exact moment. First, we file an affidavit confirming Mr. Miller is alive and competent. Second, we submit an emergency response to the guardianship petition with evidence of fraud. Grandpa nodded once, steady and ready. Use the call recording, he said. And the bank alert, I added. And the cabin footage, the attorney said sharply. Plus the attempted death declaration at the bank at 6:48 this morning. She looked straight at Grandpa. Mr. Miller, I need your signature immediately. He didn't hesitate. Grandpa took the pen and signed his name with clean, even strokes. No shaking. No confusion. No doubt. She printed the document on the spot and slid it into a folder labeled Filed Today. Then she turned her monitor toward us. There's a hearing request set for 2 p.m., she said. They're pushing for expedited temporary guardianship. Grandpa's eyes narrowed slightly. They won't get it. They can't get it, the attorney corrected, tapping the screen. Not with this. She clicked again, pulling up the attachments already submitted with my father's filing. My stomach dropped when I saw one of them. A supporting statement. PDF with my name on it. That's not mine, I said immediately. She opened it. The document read like I was some kind of predator. It claimed Grandpa was confused, isolated, and easily manipulated. It said I'd moved into his home, restricted access to family, and controlled his medication. Medication? He wasn't even on medication. My throat tightened in disbelief. Grandpa stayed outwardly calm, but something behind his eyes turned solid and cold. They're constructing a narrative, he said. Yes, the attorney replied. One designed to force a judge to act quickly. She scrolled to the bottom and that's when we all froze. The signature line wasn't my father's. It wasn't my mother's. It belonged to someone else entirely. Third party. A witness. Her voice dropped. That witness name, she said slowly, is your father's cousin. The one at the cabin. The one in handcuffs. The one caught at the door with a locksmith. Grandpa let out a single, controlled breath through his nose. So they wrote the script, he said, and sent the actor to the stage. The attorney didn't waste a second. She made a call. Judge's clerk, she said into the phone. This is counsel for Mr. Frank Miller. We have an emergency response to a guardianship petition with evidence of attempted fraudulent death notification, unlawful entry in progress, and live video footage. She listened, then added, Yes, I can email and file immediately. When she hung up, she looked at Grandpa. Now we go to the cabin, she said. If they're attempting to serve a draft order there, we need to stop it in person. Grandpa nodded. We're going. We headed back up the mountain with the sheriff's number saved and the attorney's evidence email already loaded. I kept sending everything: call recording, bank alert, screenshots of the fake message, lockbox tamper logs, porch camera footage. When we pulled into the cabin driveway, it looked like the aftermath of a storm. 2 sheriff's vehicles. Deputies moving calmly. The locksmith sitting on the porch, pale and shaken. My father's cousin in cuffs near a tailgate, head down. And a deputy holding a clipboard. The same deputy I'd seen earlier on the camera feed. When he saw Grandpa step out of the truck, his eyes widened. You don't forget the face of a man you were told was dead. Mr. Miller, he said. Grandpa nodded once. Alive. The deputy's posture changed immediately, from routine call to something that now belonged to the court. Sir, the deputy said, we recovered a printed draft order on site. He held it up. Temporary guardianship. Who printed it? Grandpa asked. The deputy glanced at the cousin. He had it in his bag, he said, along with additional forms and a thumb drive. A thumb drive. My stomach tightened again. The deputy opened an evidence bag and showed it through the plastic. We also recovered folders labeled bank and property. Grandpa's jaw tightened slightly. The attorney wasn't there, but she'd told us what mattered most. Intent, planning, and a trail. And now all of it was sitting in a deputy's hands. My father's cousin finally spoke, his voice tight, trying to sound cooperative. I was just checking on the place. They asked me to. Who asked you? The deputy cut in. The cousin hesitated. Grandpa stepped closer, calm and terrifying at the same time. Say his name, he said softly. The cousin swallowed, eyes flicking back and forth. Then he said it. Your son. Grandpa didn't react. He didn't have to. The deputy wrote it down. Then the deputy looked back up at Grandpa and said something that sent a chill through me. Sir, your son called our station earlier asking if we could confirm whether you were deceased. Grandpa's eyes hardened. He called you too, I said. The deputy nodded. Yes. And when we told him we couldn't verify anything, he said he had paperwork coming. Paperwork coming. That draft guardianship order hadn't been random. It was the paperwork. The plan. Already printed and already on its way. I stepped up onto the porch and stared at the cabin door. The lockbox was scraped and scarred. The door frame showed fresh marks where the locksmith had worked. The damage wasn't huge, but it was obvious. Loud in its own quiet way. Grandpa came up beside me and studied the wood like someone looking at an old injury. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the sealed envelope. The attorney's letter. The one he carried around unopened for hours. He handed it to me. Open it here, he said. Here. I whispered. Here, he repeated. Where they tried to steal the ending. My hand shook as I broke the seal. Inside was a single page. Simple. Direct. A notarized amendment. It didn't just block my father from access. It named him. It laid out the fraud attempts clearly and listed them as grounds for immediate restriction. It appointed the executor with full authority to freeze accounts and lock down property access. And at the bottom was Grandpa's final note, handwritten and unmistakable. If anyone claims I'm dead, call the sheriff. If anyone claims I'm incompetent, play the recording. I covered my mouth, not crying, just stunned. Stunned by how far ahead Grandpa had already seen. The deputy read it, nodded once and said quietly, "That's about as clear as it gets." Grandpa looked out toward the trees, then back toward the driveway where his cousin stood in cuffs. Then he turned to me. "They called you to tell you that you get nothing," he said. I nodded, my throat tight. Grandpa's voice stayed calm. "They were right about one thing," he said. "You get nothing from them." He rested his hand lightly on my shoulder. "You get your life back." When we left the cabin, the deputies were still there gathering evidence. The executor had already been notified. The bank would receive the fraud affidavit before the day was over. And the attorney would walk into that 2 p.m. hearing carrying a recording of my parents laughing about my grandfather's death, while he was very much alive, sitting at my kitchen table. My father thought he could erase me with a single phone call. Instead, he documented himself. He tried to bring the court to Grandpa's door. Instead, he brought law enforcement straight into his own plan. And the best part was simple. He didn't lose because I yelled. He lost because I stayed calm long enough for the truth to turn into a file.